Fellow baseball nuts, and a big warm welcome to episode 3 of the Johnny and Josh Show. Yes, episode 3, which is, of course, a magic number according to La Soul. No idea who they are, but most important of all, the number 3, for those of you who are not into your stats, is the number of the whole. The power of the 3 is universal, whether that be heaven, earth, and waters, body, soul, and spirit. So why on earth have we got Johnny Gould, Josh Chetwynd, Eric Jansen, and that other bloke who's destroying the feng shui of the Johnny and Josh Show? Welcome, boys. Lovely to have you on the show. Even you, David.
Goldie, De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising is a classic album. You must improve your cultural literacy. You are slow.
Is it part of the Spinal Tap soundtrack, which I still haven't watched, still haven't listened to, and have no interest in?
Yeah, that's why
they don't sing Big Bottoms.
I have to be honest, guys. Eric was very kind and sent me the DVD of Spinal Tap, so I do feel sort of honor bound to watch it at some stage. So now I've got to listen to De La Soul. Is that right?
Here's the thing. No. It's like I only sent you that for those who are new to the show. Johnny Gould didn't understand the reference of goes up to 11. And then we all couldn't believe he's never seen Spinal Tap before. So I sent the DVD of Spinal Tap way back in October, and he has still yet to see it. And we are now into the 2021 season. But that's why Johnny Gould is the popper of pop culture.
It's meaningless waffle. Will you get your own?
Yeah, you need a waffle. I'm bringing out my muddy rule.
Yeah. Do you know what? I can't believe this. I want to hear from Dave Lengel. I'm so fed up with the two of you. We haven't even got into the show. Dave, how are you, big guy? Take it all back. I love you. You're the only part of the show that I'm in love with at the moment.
I'm still getting over being called the destroyer of feng shui. Been called a lot of things before that I've never been called. We'll put it on the list.
You've got fodder for your therapist this week. It's good news.
Yeah, it's going to be a long session.
Buddy, you're a controversial man. You love controversy. You love messing the waters, and we love you for it.
We just call it like it is.
Yeah, except I don't want you calling like it is with the Atlanta Braves anymore.
I'm not going to get into that right now.
No, we're not. Okay, well, boys, it's lovely to have you on the show, as always. We're into our second week of baseball. Would you believe it? Only a further 26 more remaining until the playoffs begin. We need to kick off, first of all, with a COVID update. So far, so good. I say that as a couple of my players disappear from my lineup. So there have been a few outbreaks, but thankfully nothing too serious.
Yeah, I mean,
the Nationals got to play a game, right? The Nationals played baseball this week. How about that? And the Mets.
Yeah, not good if you've got any Nationals in your fantasy baseball team, because you've got superstars who've only had like 3 or 4 outings compared to sort of 8, 9 for other teams. But there has been the odd spike. What slightly worries me, and I'm sure you've seen this study that's just come out with regards to the NFL. The NFL promoted an MIT study that basically said there was no connection between them allowing fans into the stadium and any spikes. They basically dissed that there was a connection. Yet an independent study has just come out that is stating the exact opposite. They have found evidence that is overwhelmingly supportive of the fact that fan attendance at NFL games led to episodic spikes in the count of COVID-19 cases. And the numbers they're talking about, as long as it was 5,000 or less, it wasn't too bad, but anything from sort of 20,000 plus generated significantly greater spikes. So should we be worried, boys? Colorado, Texas, New York Mets Day, they're talking about 20%. That is over 5,000. Should we be worried?
Well, we're going to find, absolutely. Until we get more of this vaccine into people. Absolutely. I mean, are you surprised that the NFL study gave results that favored the NFL? Not me.
No, not me either. JC, what's your thoughts? Should we just be playing safe at this point and not allowed anybody in, or just play safe and only let a few thousand in?
I think the pods where you have little groups of people, conclaves in different locations in the stadium, that's just fine. But getting those larger numbers where you're elbow to elbow with other fans and people you don't know, that's just not responsible. And we still are at a point where we need to be responsible.
Well,
by the way, one thing, Johnny, I think is worth pointing out. When they were playing NFL games, I'm not sure they had those policies that a lot of the teams have in place now, which is to have to have a negative PCR test coming in.
Right.
That may skew the statistics a little bit differently. So we'll have to wait.
Well, and also there have been more vaccinations since probably the underlying data for that study.
Well, Eric, irony of all ironies, I've just lost Teoscar Hernandez out of my lineup from the Blue Jays, who is down apparently for COVID reasons. What's the latest with the Canadian border restriction? I mean, Toronto not even playing in Canada.
That's right.
So what's the latest on that front?
They're still playing in Dunedin in Florida and the spring training facility. However, things are still not looking good in the province of Ontario, let alone the city of Toronto. And David called it last week. He said that they'd be playing in Buffalo by June, but now they're getting the Buffalo Bison Stadium ready for the Blue Jays already. They've already told the Buffalo Bisons they're going to be relocating, playing all their home games in Trenton, New Jersey, so they can give up their stadium to the Blue Jays. The good thing is for the Bison that will come out of this is the Blue Jays are funding for their stadium being redeveloped and refurbished and expanded, and the money's being poured into the community. So once this pandemic is finally over and the Blue Jays can one day go back to Toronto, there'll be a nice baseball infrastructure for the city of Buffalo.
And credit to Dave for making that call, because I was doubtful, because I didn't think that the Blue Jays were going to want to move twice, and I think that that's just a reflection on how bad Canada is, that they're willing to take this step and potentially stay in Buffalo for the whole season, or maybe have to move yet again. So a really sad story.
I get no joy from that, by the way, because I am all out of maple syrup. I go up there every year. I get 5 cans of maple syrup for like $25. Now I'm the sucker paying $10 for a little nothing. And I wish that, this thing could get over with so I can get in my car, go to Montreal, go to Atwater Market, and get my maple syrup. I can't deal with this anymore.
And that's the thing, because, and before I close this off, the people don't realize, because obviously I'm born in Montreal, but also grew up in Southern Ontario. Going across the border, into Detroit, into Buffalo was just like going to the store. And David used to go to the University of Plattsburgh in upstate New York, and just, you'd pop into Montreal just for a drink or dinner. You can't do that at the moment. You can't, anymore. It's that border's been closed for years.
It's impacting my curling, man. It impacts my curling. Can't go over the border.
Guys, can we just stop and rewind? The three of you are worried about your curling, your maple syrup. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. These are micro concerns. You need to get over yourselves.
Very true.
We, the Johnny and Josh show, we are responsible members of society. We see the big picture. And the big picture is not maple syrup.
What I love out of that phrasing is getting over yourself is something you would never done in the 20 years I've known you. So to give that advice, should start at home, my friend.
The bottom line is I can't wait. The bottom line is I can't wait till we stop talking about these COVID updates. Moving on.
Yes.
Time for the news roundup, and we kick things off with the All-Star game. And this one pains me, guys. They've announced as we know, it's been moved out of Atlanta. That's fine. That's yesterday's news. I've moved on from that. But they've announced it's going to Mile High in Colorado. Great news for Rockies fans. But I'm gutted because I really thought they would have moved it to Milwaukee, given the fact they're going to be honoring the truly great Henry Hammerhank Aaron. And obviously that was going to be fantastic being done in Atlanta. Since it can't be done in Atlanta, for me, as a man who spent most of his playing career in Milwaukee, that would have been the obvious place to go. So disappointed that they've chosen Colorado over Milwaukee, but I am happy for the Rockies fans. What's your thoughts on this one?
So as the person living in Denver and being in the place where the All-Star game's coming, I know there's a lot of excitement here. I would probably strike 2 reasons why Colorado was chosen and why Denver is going to host the All-Star game. The first is a lot of this, all of it started from the issue of voting rights. Colorado has an incredibly robust, excellent voting system. They vote by mail. They have very, very small instances of fraud. I mean, they're incredible in terms of what they do. So they're sort of a paragon from that standpoint. Secondly, as we referred to before, they're going to allow more fans in there. And I think Major League Baseball wants an environment where it's going to have more fans in the stadium for better, or as we discussed, more likely for worse, but it can create the type of atmosphere that they want. So that lift fewer options than having an all-star game where you potentially have 10 pods of 30 people in the stadium.
Legalized marijuana helps too.
That is trope, my friend. Boy, I've heard that every time. How's it goes living in Denver?
Next, moving on, because we've got a lot to get through today. So sorry to be the dictator on this one. I want to talk about injuries because we all expect injuries to pitchers. That is just baseball. That is the norm. But I've never seen a list of injuries this early in the season to such major names. The big one, the obvious one, Tatis. For some people, the best player in baseball, but there's Tim Anderson, Ketel Marte, Brian Hayes. Josh Donaldson lasted one at bat. Question marks about Bellinger, Betts, and what a surprise, Aaron Judge. Giants of the game, boys. What's going on? Is it just coincidence?
The big one is Tatis Jr. I mean, you look at the amount of money that's been invested in him. Tearing a labrum's a big deal. Now, I realize it's not in his throwing arm. If it were in his throwing arm, it would be catastrophic. But if, in fact, he has torn his labrum, and the Padres have been very cagey about what the amount of injury is, but it really affects your swing. I've had shoulder injuries in my left shoulder swinging, and it really hurts your acceleration, deceleration in the swing. And so that could have a big impact. If this is something that is really deep and a big problem, then this could affect Tatis for a while to come, whether he stays in and tries to grit it out or has to have some form of surgery.
Okay, well, moving on. Again, we're now talking Astros. They have, obviously, we talked about this last season, benefited from the fact that there was no one in stadiums for them to suffer the consequences of Trash Can Gate. Not so this season, yet they've made a tough start. My question to you, boys, they're 6-2, top of the AL West, and yet they are getting some serious jip. There was talk of, at the Angels, somebody throwing a trash can actually onto the field. So they are taking some stick. I mean, I know you love that, though. They are taking some stick. And yet it almost, to me, it's having the opposite effect. It's just making them a tighter group. And they are playing good ball. They've got a 27-run differential, positive differential, and they're top of the table. And no one was talking about them winning the AL West. It was all about Oakland Athletics, who, by the way, are bottom. The Johnny Gould jinx works again. What's your thoughts? Do you feel that the opposition perhaps are giving Houston the perfect pep talk to pin up on the changing room wall?
I think there's that. And I think they also have the absolutely most perfect manager you could ever want with Dusty, all this going on. Dusty is just a guy who's going to calm everything around him. He's going to put anything that comes on him. He's going to take the heat for his players if any heat comes forth, even though he wasn't part of that team in the 2017, et cetera. And he's the guy, he's just a steadying hand. And if they are going to take a lot of heat throughout the season, Dusty is the guy you want in there.
It's also a great lineup, right? I mean, Michael Brantley's been swinging it. He's been a great player whenever he's been healthy. It's Altuve playing better, to be honest. I felt for that guy. I mean, I'm a big fan of him as a player, not huge in stature, but just a great swing. Struggled over the last year and a half or so, and to see him getting back in the groove is nice for baseball and for him, not for people who hate the Astros, obviously.
It takes a while to learn how to play baseball again after you've known the pitches are coming your way for so long. It takes a while to, get back to what you learned as a child. It takes time.
You just can't help yourself, can you? You just can't. Okay, the paragon of virtue that is Dave Lengel, of course, supports the New York Mets, and we have Michael Conforto breaking every rule of etiquette in baseball, leaning across the strike zone, getting an elbow. In the game against the Marlins, it was 2-2, bases loaded, and that pushed home the winning run. I mean, Dave, you can't feel honorable or decent about that win, surely.
No, totally. I mean, it was chump stuff, no question about it. I don't condone any of that. And Conforto did a bad job. The umpire called a hit batsman on a strike. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, this is on the umpire. This is on the umpire.
This is ump stuff. Like they're not going to throw at Conforto for this. They're going to be mad at the umpire.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I've been beat by pitches before, curveballs, particularly if they're sort of backdoor, coming off your shoulder. And I've stuck my elbow into the strike zone to try and get hit, primarily because I wasn't in a position to make contact. It was either going to be a strikeout or I was going to get an opportunity, maybe if the umpire wasn't paying close enough attention, to get on base. That's exactly what Conforto did. He knew that he didn't have any chance of hitting that ball. It was a really well-placed pitch inside in the strike zone, and he tried to do what he was going to do. I'm not surprised, especially nowadays with those big elbow guards are ridiculous.
Right.
I posted something on Twitter of me getting hit by a pitch, and I'm not wearing anything, man. You're taking the 90-mile-an-hour fastball off the elbow, then you're earning it. You're taking it off a piece of plastic, and that's just weak sauce.
I'm loving this. You're justifying what you did on the basis that you were hurt in the process.
Well,
that you were manly.
Two things. That wasn't the example I gave. It wasn't in the strike zone, and that's one thing. You sort of own the batter's box to a certain degree. I could have gotten out of the way, but you sort of catch the ball with your elbow. You look like you're coming out of it. I feel like that's a little bit more of a close call. Strike zone pitch, as David said, that's all on the umpire. 100%. You don't make that call. That's just a bad call. And we've seen a number of them from umpires this year. You start to wonder whether at some point we need to go to the robo ump.
Well, the other thing is they've got to get this right by the playoffs, because you can't have something like that happen and be not reviewable because it's a judgment call. If you lose a major game on a player like that going into the strike zone on a strike and getting hit by a pitch, they're never going to live that down. So they've got to get it right. They've got to get it right.
It was funny you should say that, Dave, because listening to the commentators, and that was the Mets commentators, who were obviously very unhappy with it because they were a bit embarrassed about the whole thing. And the point they kept making, or certainly one of them kept making, was they cannot be reviewed. JC, can you explain the logistics of that? What can and cannot be reviewed by a home plate umpire?
Yeah, bottom line is it should be everything. It's, plays on bases can be reviewed. There are certain, areas, but the umpires union wants to limit that, right? Because if you start reviewing everything, you start questioning the value of the umpire. Correct. So there are areas that have been off limits so far, but David's right. This is a huge blind spot. I think anything that's decision-making of this nature needs to be on the list of reviewable plays. The flip side, right, is it slows down the game. If you create too many of these, all of a sudden you're going to the video. So there is some balance, but this clearly needs to be in the bucket of things that must be reviewed.
Well, guys, we've got one other piece of controversy in what's been a very entertaining first week of the season. Multiple balls. This is multiple. The Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer, man never too far away from controversy, threw during their 4-3 loss to the Oakland A's on Wednesday, have apparently been collected by Major League Baseball for inspection because the balls reportedly had visible markings and were sticky. As you know, Bauer pitched 6 2/3 innings in the loss, giving up 3 hits, 2 runs for 10 strikeouts. It was his second start of the season. There's been no confirmation as yet whether he is guilty of anything either suspicious or illegal. What's your immediate reaction to this, JC?
Goldie, this has been an open secret in baseball for so long. When I was representing players, my agency had a player who was sort of a cuspy major leaguer, and he would take pine tar and just put it on his glove. It was much more out in the open. Now players are trying to figure out a way to do it in a more clandestine manner. And I'm not saying that Bauer did it or didn't do it. I have no idea. But what I do know is Bauer understands analytics. Tackiness on the baseball, the ability to get that stick helps you with spin rate. Spin rate's a huge part of success in terms of pitching right now. And so players are going to try and figure out ways to create that tackiness. So whether it's Bauer or someone else, this is like the spitball of different generations. It's important, it's valuable, and improves your pitching.
So Dave, what is the difference between this and what the Houston Astros did in terms of stealing signs? You're still gaining an unfair advantage.
Well, the Houston Astros were kind of using technology, weren't they?
Yeah. Well,
spitball's
is a limited technology.
Spitball's been around since the 19th century.
Well, some things are part of the culture of the game, and some things aren't. Stealing signs through trying to steal signs on the field is a tradition of the game, and stealing signs through technology and things like that is not really in the tradition of the game. And using spit and using pine tar and foreign substances and Vaseline and KY jelly, which is also a big favorite of spitballers, I should add, is kind of part of the game. But MLB wants to crack down on it because pitchers have a huge advantage right now, and especially the relievers who just come in and blow everybody away.
I'm sorry, Dave. I think Gouli has a valid point here, right? At some point, we're talking about unwritten rules again and all these sort of vague standards of baseball, and you need to have a brighter line than that. It just becomes
100%.
Sort of this silly game of oh, this is good, this is bad.
Plus, also, the fact is, technology wasn't around 70, 80, 90 years ago. So how can it be a tradition of the game? It's a modern development. Does the game not move with modern times? I agree with Josh. I think you just have to have a very clear black and white. You can't have these gray areas when it comes to rules. You have the same problems in other sports. If you read the rules of rugby, you're not allowed to feed the ball into the scrum. They all do it and the refs don't call it. I don't understand why it's in the rule book. It makes no sense to me. There's no even battle between the two opposing hookers. The same applies in baseball. I think they just need to just clear this all up, and maybe that means move away from these proud traditions that are going back. Oh, God forbid that I'm saying this, but I do think that there's a need for clarity. There needs to be
they're trying to do that, though, right? I mean, that's the whole point of taking these balls and investigating it.
And I support that. I think that's the right decision. I really do. But hey,
they can do whatever they want, but I do think that doctoring a ball is part of the tradition of a game, not necessarily a cool thing to do, but not as bad as like what the Astros did. I don't think you can compare.
They call you slippery slope Lengel.
Yeah, next time
look what Mike Scott did to the Mets. I don't complain about that.
Moving on.
Right.
Eric, time for some trivia.
Yes, it is indeed. And I like using the word apropos, because it's apropos to use the word apropos after all we just talked about. Because actually, as we all know, sadly, Phil Niekro passed away in the off season. The legend knuckleballer that is Phil Niekro, former Brave, played multiple teams. But of course, people forget that he had a brother called Joe Niekro, who was also a very successful pitcher in his own right. So between the two of them, they were quite an impressive brotherly duo playing in the same era. At Major League Baseball. However, Gaylord Perry, who was also an impressive baseballer within the same era,
Jim
and
Perry.
a spitballer, and had a very successful brother, Jim Perry, and the two of them were also it's amazing having these two pairs of brothers pretty much overlapping the same era, such powerhouses in pitching. Of course, Phil Niekro being a knuckleballer, and Gaylord Perry being a spitballer. He has Vaseline and loads of devices up his hat, in his hair to scuff out that ball. But my question to you is, out of these two pairs of brothers, which one combined has the most strikeouts? Now, I'm going to give you an extra chance to get more points. Which one combined also has the most wins? So between the Niekro brothers and the Perry brothers, which one has the most strikeouts? Which one has the most wins? Is it split? Is it one pair of brothers who got more than the other? Ooh, time will tell. And we'll find out later on the show once you let that cogitate into your mind. Joe and Phil Niekro, Gaylord Perry and Jim Perry, which one had the most wins? Which one had the most strikeouts as a combined duo?
Okay, interesting question. Thanks ever so much for that, Eric. We move on. Our lead-off batter topic of the day is quirky dugout celebrations. I know you boys are going to love this. Obviously, we've introduced the waffle since season 1 of the Johnny and Josh show, and a waffle maker appeared in the Cubs dugout. Tell me more.
Well, basically,
that's all you, Eric.
No, because it has to be me, because since this waffle maker incident in the Chicago Cubs dugout the other day, I've been tagged, I've been hashtagged, I've been messaged, I've been whatever you call the social handle of like, hey, Eric, was this you? Now, here's the thing. Unlike the Chicago Cubs, who use the waffle and the waffle maker in their dugout as a to signify celebration and to signify approval, mine signifies scorn and disapproval and disappointment to you guys.
Approbation.
Exactly. It's my yellow card to the gentleman here. But apparently what happened is Ian Happ, this goes back to 2018. Ian Happ bought a waffle maker. He wanted to sort of boost the morale in the dugout, and he bought a waffle maker for Javi Baez, who hit a home run, because he pretty much, that was a running joke with the Cubs, that they were going to have whoever waffles the next home run will get a waffle maker. And it was Javi Baez who was the first one in 2018. And then he resurrected the tradition this season And after Jock Peterson hit a home run the other day, that's the thing, they call it waffling a home run. He presented with a waffle maker in the Chicago Cubs dugout. What do you want to add to that?
They're not alone, are they, boys? They're not alone because obviously your Boston Red Sox, JC, they've got the proud tradition of the home run shopping cart. Obviously, as a minor leaguer yourself, but where's this all come from? Is this a tradition of the game that dates back many years?
Look, when you're in the dugout, and I've spent many days riding the bench in dugouts at places at various levels, you want to keep it interesting. You want to be part of the team. There's a lot of chirping that goes on where you're kind of sledging against the other team, but you also want to lift up your players. So coming up with things to do in the dugout is a huge part of baseball, particularly not just in celebrations, but also in superstition. So, there was a superstition when I was playing 2-2 count, 2 outs, you take off your baseball cap and you shake it. Little change, you'd be asking for that. The rally cap is really famous. That actually didn't start in the dugout. It started in the stands. 1940s, the Detroit Tigers had examples of doing it, but it really became popular in the 80s with Dave's New York Mets, the 86 World Series. You turn the hat around, you're sort of changing things up, and that was the rally cap. So, baseball is a sport of tremendous superstition. I was never a superstitious player, but you'll see pitchers who won't stand when they're walking off the field or coming on the field. They won't touch the foul line. If you've ever seen Bull Durham, there's a famous bit in that film about superstitions. So these are all sort of wound up into each other. The broader term for it is ritual. Baseball loves its ritual, and this is part of rituals.
Dave, you love all baseball rituals. What's your favorite dugout celebration or ritual that you've ever witnessed?
One that I really like, and you're going to be surprised by this, is something that the Yankees were doing a few years back. The Yankees, they did like a mock newscast after one of them hit a home run. They had a cameraman there, with their hands up. They had a guy with a microphone, and then presumably he was asking about the pitch. How was the pitch? And it was cute. I hate to say it because it's the Yankees, and everything. They're so boring. You wouldn't see anything like that from them because they're the most boring team in baseball. But back then, that was kind of fun.
I love all of it, Gouldy, because NFL has their home run. Their touchdown dances. Baseball needs to have the same sort of thing, that action when you get home. One thing that started over the last decade or so is clinking helmets. When you hit a home run, you take off your helmet, you clink helmets. All that stuff is great. It's just, it adds color to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not just rituals, is it either? There's handshakes. There's the rally monkey, which of course famous World Series that we covered on Channel 5.
What about when they clear the dugout, Gouldy? You like that when everybody goes away and they give them the cold shoulder and then they all come in one by one?
That's for a rookie, isn't it? That's for a rookie.
Well, they also did it with Bartolo Colon, who was.
They did it with Colon,
yeah. So it's just a way to play on someone like, oh, we're not going to give you any love at all, whatever, we don't care, and then they mob them. That's great. It's all great. Anything that adds a little flavor.
Yeah, it's all part of the bonding experience. We should do something. Maybe the four of us should do something.
We're too old, Gouldy. It's past us.
Whatever we do would be incredibly uncool. There's no question about that.
Gouldy doesn't even know De La Soul.
Oh, no. I know. Ring the bell. Our life is over, Eric.
Thank you.
Is that it? Is that a bell?
That was the saddest bell ever. It's like he has it muffled under his leg.
We're going to update on how our 4 teams are doing and who's the most likely to be celebrating at the end of the season. I'll kick things off in style with the Atlanta Braves, my favorite team, of course. As we all know, got off to a horrific start. The pitching for Philadelphia in the opening series was virtual lights out. Then we had to go to Washington, big on the road, disadvantage. But I think they've settled down after what was a horrific start. I think it's safe to say that the Atlanta Braves that we anticipated are fast appearing. They're 3-4, almost 500. And I'm not at all worried. I think as long as we don't get any serious injuries to the likes of Acuna, we will be fine. I confidently anticipate, despite the fact the NL East is very competitive, I still think we will definitively win the division, and I fancy us still to go all the way. Wow. That's the Braves. Bo Sox, there's a different story. JC, take it away.
Well, similarly, you were wringing your hands about the Braves and saying the Red Sox suck because they had a terrible opening series. They're now 4-3, and they're at the top of the heap in the AL East to begin with. So I'm not as confident. Being an older Red Sox fan, so one who predates the busting the curse of the Bambino, there's a lot of self-flagellation, right? It's like being a West Ham.
Even still?
Well, no, not even still, but those scars never heal, David. So, even when the Red Sox are going well now and the type of team they are now, I'm not totally convinced, but I like this team. I like them a lot. I think that Kike Hernandez at the top of that lineup is a ton of fun. He's not your prototypical leadoff hitter, and that, he's a free swinger, but I really like him. Tanner Houck got sent down, but I think that he is going to be a really good part of that rotation coming down the pike over time. I watched him in his one start before he got sent down for Eduardo Rodriguez. So I think there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Red Sox fan.
Okay, Dave, what about those pesky Mets?
I mean, they were lucky they got that gift win, because you're about to be 1-3 with a day off on a Friday to think about, how they haven't hit with runners in scoring position, how the bullpen has been iffy, but, they've played fewer games than everybody else because of COVID. Got DeGrom on the hill today. We're recording on a Saturday. Nothing to worry about. It's fine. We'll patient.
Are you slightly worried about, you've got an owner that spent a lot of money and he anticipates immediate success? To me, there's a danger he's the sort of Roman Abramovich of baseball, i.e. that changes will be made if results aren't forthcoming. Does that worry you, that that's quite a lot of pressure to live with a guy who's absolutely spent to succeed?
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's the big question, is when the S hits the fan, how is Steve Cohen going to react? Is he going to be Steinbrenner-esque or Abramovich-esque? Or is he going to be, cool, calm, and collected and wait for the process to play out? That's kind of what we're waiting to see. We're feeling this owner out. We don't really know.
I think it's going to be the latter. I mean, compared to like an Abramovich or a Steinbrenner, I don't think he wants the attention in the same way that those guys did. And I think that helps in terms of being a steady hand.
Well, Eric, we move on to the Detroit Tigers. We all anticipated they'd be one of the worst teams in baseball. They are bottom of the AL Central, but in fact, they're only 2 games back of the Minnesota Twins, who lead the division. They've had a half-decent start, 3-4, and they've discovered a superstar, my new favorite baseball player. Take it away, buddy. Give us a shout-out for the Tigers.
Well, we mentioned last week, and he's still producing the goods, Akil Baddoo, who, if you remember from last week, he hit a home run on his debut, on his first at-bat, on his first pitch. Next day, he hits a grand slam. Next day after that, he hits a game-winning single. Next day after that, he hits a triple RBI. But then yesterday, he went 0 for 2, so send him back down the minors.
Yeah.
But
nowhere to go but down.
He's bringing
the Tigers, though.
He's bringing morale back to the Tiger team. I didn't think AJ Hinch would do much with this Tiger team, but they're a fun team to watch. There's no superstars on there. Candelario is supposed to be a superstar. Willie Castro, Wilson. It's. I mean,
no. You're missing the point though with the Tigers though. You're missing the point, Eric, which is that the Tigers' future is on the mound. So it's guys like Casey Mize. They've got a lot of really good young pitching. Yes. If they're going to have success moving forward, it will be their pitchers, and there's a possibility for that.
You said.
Can I make a suggestion?
You said for the future. He didn't say for this season. So,
I mean, because there's no present for the Tigers.
Oh, it's so mean.
You
think I'm mean,
guys? I genuinely love this kid. As you must have all seen the footage, obviously, of the celebration of the family, mum and dad, the brothers, when he hit his home run off his first at bat. It was crazy. It was awesome. I think we should maybe rekindle the old Channel 5 Weaver Watch. Why can't we do it? He's so good, he's Baddoo. That could be the title. And every week we check in with Akil, who is our new favorite baseball player. What do you think?
I'm voting heavily for that. Big hands up on that.
Baddoo
I
Watch?
like Akil.
I'll do that. It's going to suck when he's batting $136 in AAA. But
yeah, I think we have to follow him into the minors. So if he's at AA, we're talking about the AA squad for the Tigers.
I'm loving it. We're making a commitment, a season-long commitment.
When he's playing indie ball. When he's playing indie ball in the Atlantic League, we're following Akil Baddoo.
We will be there.
But
we make his first mortgage payment.
What about the strap line? He's so good, he's Baddoo. Or he's so bad, he's Baddoo. I don't know. What do you think? We should maybe vote on it.
Okay, well, we'll figure.
We should ask our listeners. That's a
viewers.
question for the listeners.
What?
And viewers.
Eric,
not a
who's the
democracy.
AAA? I forget who's the AAA franchise for
Toledo
Tigers,
Mud Hens.
Toledo. Oh yeah, it's gonna be great. Following
Corporal Klinger.
That'll be fun.
So there you go. Yeah, I mean, I had no hope before the season started for my Detroit Tigers, who I have a fond affinity for. But after the few games, hey, you never know. So moving on.
We move on to our third at bat, and this one is a particular favorite I know of many of you. It's the ugly MLB uniforms, or is it? Nike introduces new MLB City Connect Series uniforms, 7 teams. The first one was with the Boston Red Sox, and you're loving the look, JC.
Yeah, I'm in on it. I know I'm alone. I think amongst the four of us, I think those jerseys are tight. I like the colors. They're the colors of Patriots Day, which is, a huge event in Boston when they run the Boston Marathon. The Red Sox play an early game, huge day. And I like it. It's kind of retro, and I think they're fun. And I like that they have, the area code on the arm. I'm giving it a thumbs up.
Big Dave, this is the press release, and I quote, after Major League Baseball and Nike announced their partnership to provide on-field uniforms for 2020. The relationship would help guide one of the most historic visual connections in sports, the bond between baseball club identities and their fans. Wonderful marketing talk, totally meaningless. What's your take on the 7 uniforms that are going to be launched? And I don't understand why it's only 7. That's another question that needs an answer.
Not only is it only 7, but they're being released intermittently. So we have no idea what's to come. So there's a lot of mystery out there as to which way this is going to go. The Boston one, I guess that, I can see the whole thing with the Patriots Day. That's for Boston people to figure out. Right now, the Mets and the Yankees are not on that list. The next most traditional team to get a city jersey are the Dodgers. So that should be very interesting to see what they're going to do over there.
I wonder, there's been conjecture on this, whether they're going to go purple, which is a huge color in LA. That's the Lakers color, right? And the Kings, the LA Kings earlier in their history also used purple. Of course. I would like to see potentially a little purple, but that whole thing is that color though, that royal blue is so iconically Dodger.
I thought I'd give my own 2 cents where I thought about the MLB City Connect. And you know what? It sucks. I hate the Boston look. I hate uniforms that makes you look like you're out of uniform. I even hate it and in spring training when teams play on St. Patrick's Day in the green caps to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. It's just the pastel yellow and blue that the Red Sox will be wearing. Yeah, I know it's Patriot colors, but it's not Red Sox colors. You're supposed to don't stray too far away from your uniform. Keep a nice balance. Don't mess up with the logo.
Eric, someone needs to take you to your local. Someone needs to take you to your local.
I'm not open yet.
3 or 4 or 6 pints. Because you need to just simmer it down. No. We talk on this show so much about adding color and flavor to the sport, and you want to be a Luddite. You want to live in a shack writing screeds about the puritanical nature of baseball. I admit that it's crass commercialism on some level, right? You're just looking for something else that you can sell. But I like these jerseys. I think they're fun. Something contemporary is always good.
Don't mess with the logo. Don't mess with the team colors.
Worst uniforms of all time.
Go on.
Ready? June 30th, 2018, turn ahead the clock night.
Yeah, those were bad.
The Mariners and the Royals. You've got, we'll post those on the website. And then the Mets had something called the Mercury Mets, and Hershiser went out there in these uniforms. We'll post them all. Horrific.
But switching them up is sometimes good. I mean, you talk about having your historical colors. Ironically, for the Red Sox, their historical colors are sort of that navy blue. But when they went red in the 70s, those red unis were great. The red hats. I mean, I think mixing it up is fun for the sport.
Well, talking about other sports,
Mets are going to go back to their black a little bit. They may be doing Friday night Mets in black, which they wore, of course, in the 2000s.
Yeah. So some uniforms are luckier than others. Some look horrific. But obviously, if you're Eric, you're not allowed to show any kind of character, kind of deviance from the norm.
Hey, well, here we go. Our next point on today's on this exact topic. the teams that have never changed logo, never changed uniform. For Yankees, classic. Red Sox, classic. Detroit, classic. Never mess with those colors. Cubs, Dodgers.
They've changed their colors. You're totally wrong. They went more orange for a while. The Tigers. The Tigers have definitely haven't
home uniform, and that was never altered.
I think they
the D has changed a little bit over the years. I think.
And they had different color. The hat you are currently wearing, which is the classic, hat, which is all one color with the D. They've had the orange.
They had that orange one. Yeah.
On the road.
I didn't like that.
On the road.
In Eric's defense, literally every broadcaster out there is complaining about the Marlins third jersey, the blue on black, where you basically can't see the name or the number because of the color combo.
I'm gonna look.
Are we combined in our hatred of that?
I'm going to tell you to look it up right now.
This doesn't mean, Goldie, it doesn't mean that every jersey is a hit. I mean, they're going to be, fashion blunders for sure. But the idea of trying to press it a little bit and try different things, we should be open to that.
Yeah. The Marlins one is fine. It's not like, when you're playing soccer, football, whatever you want to call it.
Well, you can't see the name, you can't see the number. I mean, that's a nonsense.
If you're a broadcaster,
hit the bell. Hit the bell.
Moving on.
Okay, let's move on to something that combines the forces rather than divides, and that is, of course, the seventh inning stretch. And this week, with Baseball Book of the Week, over to you, Eric.
Well, I'm going to use that word apropos again, because this week's Baseball Book of the Week will be the Knuckle Book, written by Dave Clark, and nothing to do with the Dave Clark 5. He actually Josh and I discussed a lot about this book in the past, actually, and it's a revelation. There've been only a handful of major leaguers who have actually been knuckleball pitchers, and 7 of them are actually in the Hall of Fame, including Phil Niekro, by the way. The knuckleball and the history of it goes beyond, because when you think about it, people like Eddie Seacott of the 1919 Black Sox was actually the first one to popularize it. He's the first one people started noticing what the heck is that kind of junk that he's throwing. When I bought this, I was thinking maybe I could teach my son to maybe become a knuckleballer, and this book, Knuckle Book, will probably help. No, didn't do a thing. But Josh, I think I'll give the floor to you, because you and I have had many discussions about the knuckleball and exactly this Knuckle Book.
Yeah, I own that book too. And when I was in my fading days of my GB career, I talked to the head coach at the time, Stefan Rapaglia. He was saying, I'm looking for someone who can throw the knuckleball. I think that would be like a really good change of pace for our staff for Great Britain. And so I bought that book, and I was like, well, maybe I'll give it a go. One thing I learned after reading that book and trying to throw the knuckleball is you either have it or you don't. That's not something you can teach. You either have the feel for it. It requires a really steady wrist, a strong wrist, because you don't snap at all. You sort of throw it in sort of a straight manner. And the way you let your fingers off of the ball is innate. Either you have it or you don't. And the players who have done it obviously fine tune it. And, there are all these histories. R.A. Dickey was taught by Charlie Huff, who came out and gave him pointers, because, there are ways in which you have to sort of manage it. And there are days where it just doesn't work because of the way the wind is going. But the pitch is just amazing. The book was a fun read. It tries to give a how-to. It's not just a history of the knuckleball, but it tries to give you, here's how the different pitchers have held it, because there's not just one way to hold a knuckleball. But again, if you're thinking out there that you can be, like rusty, like Jack, Eric's son, and pick it up, I certainly couldn't. And I've known people who really weren't that great at baseball, but can do it. So maybe it's worth a try for all of us, and maybe you'll just be that one in a million who just has that.
And that's the thing, because it's probably only about 30 pitchers in the history of baseball have been recognized as that's a knuckleball pitcher. It's the Stephen Wright is currently the only one with the Pittsburgh Pirates that is a knuckleball pitcher. Tim Wakefield's no more. R.A. Dickey's retired. So Stephen Wright's the only one who's passing the baton for the knuckleball.
What's fascinating is they're almost all right-handers too. The only great left-handed knuckleballer that I can recall is Wilbur Wood, who pitched for the White Sox for like 150 years. But because those knuckleballers do last a long time, but it's really a right-hander art for the most part too.
I thought for sure my route to the big leagues was going to be knuckleball. And after I figured out that I had no athletic talent to speak of whatsoever, I decided that if I ever won the lottery, I would just hire Phil Negro to come over and we would just work on the knuckleball for like 5 years. I had a whole 8-year plan. I'll work on it for 5 years. It'll take me 3 years to move into the bigs, and I'll get in a couple of years in the bigs. But it never worked out because I never won the lottery.
But I'm telling you, even if you had Phil Negro, not anymore, but whatever, R.A. Dickey or Tim Wakefield, I'm telling you, like, that wouldn't necessarily be enough. You either have it or you don't. You can't. It's not a taught skill. I mean, it's
why are you ruining my
on the
fantasy?
edges. Sorry,
you're ruining my fantasy.
Sorry to break your heart. Go get some drums and join a rock band.
Big Dave, if it's any consolation, buddy, when I was 18 years old, I told the world I was going to win an Oscar as a professional actor by the age of 32. I was then going to quit the profession at 40. I was then going to go into politics, and I was going to be the British Prime Minister by 52. Needless to say, I haven't quite achieved either.
How's that going?
Well, the reality is I peaked when I was 18. It's all been downhill ever since. So I'm sending you the love, buddy. You're not the only loser on this show.
We need to have a Gouldy meme where it started, where it's going.
All I need to know is where it's ending.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Hey, okay. Well, talking about my spectacularly unsuccessful acting career, where I made a film debut in the epic movie Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, which was quoted by Time Out the worst film in cinematography history.
Are you going to say that every episode now? We talked about it last week.
Look, well, from one bad movie actor to a phenomenal movie, and that phenomenal movie, one of my all-time favorites, is this week's movie of the week, Brewster's Millions. Take it away.
Oh, he stepped on your line.
So this week,
just like a terrible actor that he
is Brewster's Millions, by the way, everyone. Okay, moving on. Okay,
we got to talk classic film.
It's a classic
film. Great movie.
Brewster's Millions, starring Richard Pryor and John Candy. If you're a child of the '80s and you saw this in cinema, you'll remember how everyone was howling with laughter, and is actually, it got panned. You look at IMDb, you look at Rotten Tomatoes.
I can't believe it gets panned.
It doesn't have great ratings, but usually on the it's so bad it's good. No, but it's a good, fun film, and
it's a great film.
Baseball. It's the one film where the baseball is terrible and the film still is brilliant.
Right.
For those who have never heard of Brewster's Millions, it's basically Richard Pryor is a pitcher for a fictional minor league team called the Hackensack Bulls, and his catcher and his best friend is John Candy. Already you can think that comedy duo alone will work, and the premise of the whole film, Richard Pryor gets offered, he finds out that a recently deceased great uncle has left him money in his will, but there's a catch.
White great uncle, which surprised him.
White great uncle, he was surprised even more. The catch was that he was offered $1 million just to take it away, or he can have $300 million. However, he'd have to spend $30 million in 30 days and not have any assets after spending the $30 million. And the other catch is he can't tell anybody why he was doing that. So the whole film centers around him trying to spend $30 million in 30 days so he can inherit $300 million. Hilarity ensues. He hires the New York Yankees to play against his Hackensack Bulls so he can pitch against New York Yankees. And it's worth it for just this one hilarious scene, which I can't repeat on this podcast because, hey, we're a family show. And it's John Candy taunting the New York Yankee at bat while he's batting. We'll post it on social media, and you can watch it yourselves, but make sure the kids aren't in the room. But yes,
if memory serves,
go on.
I was going to say, Eric, if memory serves, I played at the field that was the stand-in for the Hackensack Bulls.
What, in New Jersey?
Is there really the train that goes through? Is that true?
There's a train. It was behind the field. Yeah, and it's not in New Jersey. It's obviously in L.A. I'm pretty certain.
Oh, well, by the way, one more little bit of tidbit as well, a British connection to the film. Did you know that that's right, I forgot about that part of it was filmed in L.A., that Her Royal Highness Princess Anne happened to have been just dropped by and visited the set while they were filming of Richard's Millions because she wanted to meet John Candy. Did you know that? Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
John Candy is great. I would love to see it. He had, after they get money and he gets a lot of money from Richard Pryor, he has this like huge gold necklace with a gold plated catcher's
I wonder
mask.
who has that now.
And I was like, that would be awesome.
Oh my God. Yeah. That'd be a great prop to have.
You would
know
like
the
that.
book?
I'm not much for bling, but that was cool bling.
That's good bling.
But you know the book that this is based on was written in 1902. There's been 7 film versions of that book. This is obviously the standout one, but this is a story that everybody's obviously loved making movies about.
There you go. Well,
Great story.
Super movie.
Watch
Brilliant.
It.
Okay.
Watch it.
Eric, what about the trivia? Let's get back
now,
to that. We were talking knuckleballs.
Everything sort of like is whipping around. We talked spitballs. We talked knuckleballs, and we talked Phil Necro. Now, I asked you earlier which brother duo combo has had the most strikeouts between the Necro brothers and the Perry brothers. So Gaylord Perry and Jim Perry combined, and Phil Necro and Joe Necro combined. So I will first go with the strikeouts. Which one of these brother combos combined had the most strikeouts? Josh?
Can I go first?
Okay.
Well, I don't think they're too far apart because I know both of them are around the 3,500 mark. We're talking about the main brothers here, and I'm just going to go with the Perrys just simply because it's a family name. It was my mum's name, so I'm going with Gaylord.
Gaylord and Jim Perry, more strikeouts. That's for Johnny. David and Josh. David?
Yep.
I'll go Negro.
Necro brothers. And Josh.
I like the Negro brothers.
I'm going to go Perry. They're going to be very close. People don't realize how good Joe Necro and Jim Perry were. I mean, both of them I know had 200 plus wins. They were good.
Aren't they all the same person? They're all one.
You never
person.
see them together, do you?
Never see them.
Certainly not
here's
anymore.
the answer for strikeouts.
Yeah, I'm going with Perry too.
Okay, well, so the Necro brothers struck out a total of 5,089 batters. Okay, while the Perry brothers struck out a grand total of 5,110. A 21-point difference.
Wow, it was close.
It was a 21 difference.
Strikeout difference.
Now, and now, as far as wins are concerned, just quickly, which one of the brothers had the most wins combined?
I know, Eric, that you wouldn't choose one set of brothers over another. So I know both Phil and Gaylord both had 300. I'm going to go with Necro just because I know you want to split it up. I'm just trying to game.
I like that I put you in that false security. When I say quickly,
land war in China, mental battle.
I'm going on the basis that
I don't care where you're going. I'm just saying, just say a name.
We're almost.
Just give us an answer.
Go for a tie.
Okay, well, I'm going for the Necros.
Okay.
Tie.
So I've already got one right, and I'm going to get the second one right. I'm going for the Necros.
You're just copying
David?
You're just
I'm going tie. It's a tie.
You're going a complete tie. Okay.
They're the same.
Okay, so the Necro brothers got 539 wins combined, while the Perry brothers got 529 wins combined. So yes, there was a Necro.
Yes, 2 for 2. 2.
So it wasn't a tie?
There was not a tie.
It wasn't a tie, big guy.
That would have been interesting if it was. Right?
Very upset.
There we go. So there's your trivia. There's your 7th inning stretch and pop culture.
Well, thank you for that, Eric. Moving on to the mailbag, and a huge thanks to everybody for getting in touch, and in particular the competition. And we have a competition winner. You will remember from last week, we were announcing our movement into, of course, the world of YouTube. And we asked you to subscribe, and we said that for the first 100 subscribers, we would choose a name out of the hat, and they would be the very lucky winner of one of the many books sitting in the basement of Josh's house. And I'm very happy to announce Michael Linwood.
Yeah. Top bloke, by the way.
Very good, Michael.
He asked me to inscribe it from one British League catcher to another because he had spent some time catching in Hull, and real nice guy. The book is already on the way, Mike. So inscription included.
You disinfected it first, right? So we don't need the Chetwynd strain over on this island.
Oh, I thought it's the UK variant that's the virulent one there, my friend.
No, you. What else, Johnny?
I just hope the pages aren't stuck together.
We've had a lot of questions about the whole Michael Conforto guys on the website, certainly on the Twitter page, on the Johnny and Josh Twitter page, and I think the feeling is pretty consistent amongst everybody that it was the wrong call by the home plate umpire. So and we had a chat about that early doors. So many thanks to everybody for coming back on that. I have nothing else to offer.
That is a phrase that's come out of your mouth a lot, Johnny, in your life.
Because
people were very focused on that, and I took a little pat on the back because I said last week how good Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, and Keith Hernandez were at their job, and they showed it this week by not playing the homer commentator when that happened. They were disgusted by Conforto, and you could hear it in the moans and groans from Keith.
I think the one thing we would have had in the mailbag was more Joe Musgrove and his no-hitter, because that was just we talk about big trades in baseball and all the big signings, and I say invariably that the players that have the biggest impact year over year through those transactions tend to be not the biggest names. And Joe Musgrove was always going to be a sneaky success story when it comes to the analytics, spin rate, his slider and his curveball. This guy was great. And he was literally one batter. He hit Joey Gallo. He was one batter away from a perfect game. There was a great no-no. So I know that was sort of a late breaking news, but I suspect that our listeners would have dropped that in.
Well, guys, the one thing,
of course, that's the first no-hitter in the history of the San Diego Padres.
Every team's done
the best story
deal for a franchise.
Was the same catcher from the last no-hitter, Caratini, who caught Alec Mills when he was with the Cubs for his no-hitter last year, catches this no-hitter as well.
Good bit of trivia.
JC is the only guy with any experience in professional baseball. How gutting is it to be so close to the perfect game? And at the end of the day, it was his own fault that it wasn't a perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, I think throwing the no-hitter is just so great. Do you know, when I played for GB, I broke up 3 no-hitters as a hitter. So, so I did that 3 times.
Get a hit in the first inning, it doesn't count.
No, I was mid-game type of stuff. So
please don't tell me you bunted. Please don't tell me.
With my speed, I think you know the answer to that one. Jeez. No, yeah, unfortunately, I never caught a no-hitter, and that's something I really wish I had of, because that would have been a special experience, I think.
Do keep them coming, guys. Seriously, when it comes to questions, when it comes to any issue that you want us to raise, we're led by you. You need to get in touch. And, of course, our social handles behind home plate is our fantasy pod, and that's at BHP Pod. BHP stands for Behind Home Plate. It's not just the Johnny and Josh show. We've also got NHL with Slapshot Smack Talk, the Twitter handle at Slapshot Talk. And that, of course, is Eric with anybody that's willing to talk NHL with him. We've also got the NBA show, all part of the Ted Fred stable. Anytime NBA show, the Twitter handle at Anytime NBA show. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube. And, of course, it's at Johnny and Josh if you want to get in touch with us. And the Johnny and Josh show is the Facebook line. So please do get in touch. It's your show. And we basically can't afford script writers, so we need you to help us out.
And remind them, Goldie, come up with a name for our Badoo follow. Fun Badoo
okay.
game.
Well, I still think I've already nailed it. He's so good, he's Badoo. I think that's.
I thought we were the listeners' show. We're not.
We are. You're right. We should open it up. So if you want to get in touch and say, Goldie, another brilliant idea. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what we should do. Then please do get in touch at the Johnny and Josh show.
Much Badoo about nothing.
Oh, hey. Except that's slightly negative.
Well, what he's doing well, it could be much Badoo about something.
Everything. All right.
Okay, now it's getting really tough.
Moving on.
See what he did there?
Moving on. That's it from us. Thank you so much for listening, boys. Have you got a big week ahead of yourselves?
No.
Counting the days till we get to chat again, Johnny Gould.
Fantastic. Well, as always, an absolute pleasure having your company, and thank you to each and every one of you for listening. If you've got friends out there that you think might enjoy a bit of baseball talk, then do get them to subscribe to the Johnny and Josh show and all the other programs as part of the Ted Fred stable. That's it from us, from me, Johnny, Eric, Dave, and JC. Thank you for listening on the Johnny and Josh show.